What up? We're live and direct on Pet Sports and Podcast Studios and in part by Post 8 Beat, the heartbeat of Atlanta. Your boy, host, famous bees. They call me Facts. Hello tonight.
Sound check up,
I'm around. Y'all see we doing this live famous lounge. Y'all see it all the best. I would think about it. All Boston, different sport, different things. Got a whole lineup for you tonight. A couple of crazy NFL segments that I just straight cooked those up for you because I know y'all love to hear about the football. You know I'm gonna talk about the NBA Finals. Game 6 is tomorrow night. I got a special guest coming on to chop it up with y'all about Game 6. So when he makes it on, we definitely gonna make our way over to that. Talk about these hoops, see what's going to popping for that thing right there. If y'all got anything y'all want to say, hit me up on the petty line. It's 678-871-9602. I think G might be able to run you in there. He'll let me know if he can't. But y'all know what it is. I'm not going to take it easy on you. If you call, I'm chewing you up. It's going to be ugly just like that. Man, I'm going to jump in this thing right off the top. Y'all heard about it. Everybody been weighing in, saying what they want to say. Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill on the It Needs to Be Said podcast actually went on record and said that he'd take Tua Tagovailoa over Pat Mahomes in the accuracy department. So, everybody's out here weighing in, talking about how outrageous this statement is. He referenced the play in the playoffs against the Buffalo Bills where he took a short route 70 yards to the house. Said that he'd rather actually have his passes hit him right in the breadbasket instead of having a deep ball just heaved up in the air like a punt that he's got to track down, which sounded like he was really throwing some major shade at Pat Mahomes. I mean, some of that is he's at a new team. He got a new quarterback. What'd you expect the man to say? He's supposed to be like, nah, my ex-quarterback was way better than you, but I'm here now, and they're paying me a lot of money. He wasn't going to come out and say nothing like that. So, man, I just had to kind of dig into it a little bit. It was like, where did he even get this from? So, we're looking at last season, Tua actually did complete more of his passes than Pat Mahomes. He completed a 67.8% rate to Pat Mahomes' 66.3%. It does seem negligible, but when we talk about throwing that many passes, it takes a lot to get a percentage point up like that. He only threw for 2,600 yards, and, Pat Mahomes threw for 4,800, almost 5,000, so they were nowhere near close in that department. I don't even think he's trying to argue with you to say that Tua is better or even worthy of being mentioned in the same breath as Mahomes, just as far as, overall quarterbacking. But he said the man's more accurate, and the numbers actually support that. But I'm going to dig a little bit deeper for you because we could be seeing something that is turning into a trend. Tua Tagovailoa coming out of Alabama was supposed to be the number 1 overall draft pick over Joe Burrow before he got hurt. Bama would have beat LSU when they played them that year if Tua had been healthy. Because they beat them, I think Bama lost that game by 4 points, and Tua was hobbling around on one leg. He couldn't even run. He was just heaving it. And they still like to beat that juggernaut, undefeated LSU team that many believe is the greatest college football team of all time. But just moving forward, Tua was a better prospect coming out of college than Pat Mahomes was. I'm still not comparing the two. So before y'all just really get all the way in your feelings, I'm not saying Tua is better than Pat Mahomes. I'm saying the potential that he walked into the NFL with was far greater than what anyone thought Pat's would be because no one knew who Pat Mahomes was at Texas Tech. You lying if you say you knew anything other than that crazy game he had when they played, I believe it was Texas A&M or I don't know who they played, but the game was they scored 70 points. It was outlandish. But outside of that, no one had even heard of the guy. So Tua's now coming into his second year, actually year 3. He's coming off the injury. Looks like he must be actually 100% healthy now. If you will remember walking into the league, we thought Tua was going to be the second coming of Russell Wilson. He seemed like the left-handed version of him, and apparently he wasn't all the way healthy last year. So it is a possibility that Tua could come out and have a career year since he's actually got wide receivers and he's healthy. Now with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle is like Tyreek Hill 2.0. When you got two guys that are that fast it ain't like he got to throw the ball 1,000 yards down the field at a time. If you hit him in stride, just like you said, he's out there eating, and Jalen Waddle's the same way. We saw how much work he did throwing to Jalen Waddle last season. Now he's got a stable of running backs out there. He got an offensive-minded head coach. As unlike what Mahomes walked into, it was nothing like that. Brian Flores, he's a straight defense guy. He's a defensive guru. That has nothing to do with his quarterback. Pat walked into an offensive genius in Andy Reid. But now, when you got McDaniel out there, this guy is an offensive guy. He comes from the Shanahan tree, so you know he's going to have some eclectic schemes going with the run game. They got a stable of running backs, which will actually take a lot of heat off of him, on top of the fact that you got 2 wide receivers that are that fast, so everyone is going to have to back up off the line. You can't just press cover and load the box when you got 2 guys that fast. I mean, that's going to open up lanes for the run off the top just for having 2 guys out there that fast. He's going to have people open because he's going to have more time. He'll have more room. This could be the coming out party for Tua, just like we saw Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase reunite straight out of college, acting like it was like they were back at LSU. Now you got Tua and Jalen Waddle. They also played together and won a national championship together. I mean, that does seem to be like a trend in the NFL right now, trying to reunite quarterbacks and their college wide receivers because it's working. So you really need to actually be on the lookout for Tua Tagovailoa. I mean, as a Patriots fan, I really hope that he's not about to be that good because we already can't beat the Dolphins. So, I mean, it's food for thought. You just cannot scoff at the fact that we could be seeing lightning strike again. We just watched it because nobody, as in the Cincinnati Bengals, made it to the Super Bowl last year. No one called that. Not even Cincinnati fans called that. So the Miami Dolphins could be on to something. And I say could be. It's definitely a possibility. We're going to jump right on back in to the NBA Finals because it's been all the way live. I'm really getting sick of folks acting like the finals were boring or something. But we'll start off just with that initial nonsense. People were making a whole fuss about the Celtics fans and their language and the chants. Like, when did that become a thing? I ain't heard nothing about any of them out there yelling racial slurs. I definitely didn't hear anyone harassing the road team's family like we've seen in other arenas. I ain't hear anybody interfering with the game. Nobody run on the court. Ain't nobody pushing the players. Nothing like that has been happening. It's like y'all are calling them classless because they're saying F Draymond. It's like, man, how long has that been going on? Like, you're not going to be able to stop the fans from doing that. Y'all have been playing entirely too long to act like that's an issue. Like, let's not start the policing to going all the way into the crowd. I mean, like, they have to say positive things or they can't talk. Like, is the crowd not allowed to be hostile anymore? It's like, we know the Boston fans have been known to be off the chain, and we have at times heard where there was some stuff that was just completely out of pocket. But this chant that they're talking about with Draymond, I'm like, man, you're going to have to miss me with that. Like, that's just getting a little bit too sensitive right there for me, that I can't do it. Then we got 5 games in the books. Golden State is up 3-2. And it's pretty much just like what I told y'all. Because if you recall, I told y'all that Golden State will win this series in 6 games. Called the first 2 opposite, but I did tell you they'd go 2-2, and then Golden State will win Game 5 and Game 6. And it's pretty much looking like that's exactly what's going to happen. I mean, we got Reggie on?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. They made a grand entrance on them. They all got man, NBA Reg in our house. Come in and check in. Let us know what's popping. How you doing tonight?
Man, I'm doing pretty well, man. Excited to be on. Glad you sending the invitation to talk a little hoop, man. The best time of the year to do it. So I'm ready to rock and roll.
Oh, absolutely, man. So, man, I don't know if you was hearing me just now. Like, I was just kind of giving a little intro into the series right now. You know, we sitting at 3-2. Talking about their fans because their fans be wilding, but, I mean, that's a gift. I don't think – who's going to go on the road in the finals and the crowd ain't going to be on you?
Man, you're definitely right. Any arena, that's pretty much average what you're going to get in the arena nowadays. I mean, fans are going to be on you. Heck, the only time it really gets out of line is when fans start messing with the players' families, as we saw earlier when Chris Paul had some fans escorted out the arena. So long as nobody does any touching or anything like that, man, words are all fair play.
Yeah, man. I'm like, man, that's a fair game. That's what make it fun.
And I'm like, what surprises me, a lot of it is coming from Draymond, who's the biggest instigator of all. And I feel like you're the player that you should be least worried about the fans because that's what you feed off of. Or you're the type of player that fans should get you going the most because you're the one that's always looking for answers like that and things outside of the game of basketball that you bring to the table to get you going. So to hear some of that coming from him and the Golden State Warriors players in general is kind of laughable.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Y'all kick rocks with that. Go out there and do what you do. Y'all been doing your job. Keep doing your job. I'm not even trying to hear none of that. Spell, who you think biggest impact in the series so far? Because I actually am having a hard time deciding. There's some people I think have really big impacts and other folks I'm just annoyed with.
Man, with me, my biggest impact is a combination of the others from both teams. You know, in game one, where Al Horford kind of had a resurgence of himself, and he had a huge impact. Then you got players like White shooting the three. And then on the Warriors side, you have Andrew Wiggins is almost, in their wins, become their double-double guy in defending the best player on the team and doing it on both ends. And Draymond has kind of been on and off. He hasn't really had that Draymond game, but when he brings those other elements to the game, he definitely helps give the Warriors a certain edge that they need. And Robert Williams, he's been huge, like on the defensive end, presence down low. So we kind of know what we're going to get from the stars. But it's the other players who've made their impact in the game that's helped their team win, in my opinion, who've been the unsung heroes.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely can go with that. I think one player that's really actually throwing the series off would be the defensive player of the year, Marcus Smart.
Yeah.
I mean, the way he's playing, he's really starting to fall into a category for me of a Lowry or a Chris Paul. Like, you turn into a little annoying player that's just out there looking to just draw a foul, just flopping all over the court, grabbing people, holding them. It's like, bro, are you going to hoop or not? Like, he was not doing that all season to get the Defensive Player of the Year award. He's turned into a flop master against Curry. He's like, oh, you put on a little weight, so now I'm going to really sell it that you can push me around? It's like, too pretty a player to play like that. Like, it's really getting hard to watch. And he's actually now he's giving up buckets. I mean, just like, I know y'all watched the Coach 30 video. That man got pushed and slid halfway up the court trying to get a foul, and you leave. How you going to leave Klay Thompson wide open for a three-pointer trying to get a flop? Maybe get a hand in his face. Maybe there's only one player in the entire NBA who you can definitively say can shoot better than him, and he's also on the court. Like, you can't leave these dudes open trying to get a foul.
I mean, and I think a lot of it is he's playing the mind games that he's really showing his inexperience of not being on that level when things don't go his way. Because he's getting back-to-back. He got a technical foul and then another foul back-to-back in Game 5 when the Warriors made their comeback. They kind of take them out of the game last game. And I'm just like, you are the Defensive Player of the Year, and you're making bonehead defensive plays. And it'll be different if he was coming to the aid or you was looked at as the enforcer guy. But you're not doing any of that. You're just making bonehead plays, and you're just talking and taking people and taking pretty much yourself out of the game. So yeah, it's kind of pointless.
That's the first time that he scored 20 points in a playoff game and they lost. Like that was like a running stat, but he's not playing defense like he's supposed to. But I mean, speaking of the defensive side, I think, outside of Steph Curry, who's just been lights out outside of last game, I have to say Wiggins has been one of the most dominant players outside of the stars. His scoring, clearly, we saw what he did last game, but all series long, he's been hounding Jason Tatum. Tatum is having to work so hard to score. I mean, this dude is athletic. He's just as tall. He's stronger. And he's like, he wants to play defense. He's out there like, this is my assignment. I mean, you see he mirrors him. Anytime Tatum is in the game, Wiggins is in the game. If Tatum gets a break, Wiggins gets a break. His job this series is to make life difficult for Tatum. And for the most part, it's like Tatum hasn't really been able to rise to the occasion over him.
I mean, this has been because the Boston Celtics need Jason Tatum to be the best player on the court. He doesn't have to be the best player on the court every game, but we've been waiting for that game where Jason Tatum's been unstoppable. And the sad thing about it is Andrew Wiggins is taking on that assignment pretty much by himself. He's not seeing crazy double teams. He's been able to guard Jason Tatum and force him into taking contested hard shots by himself. And that usually isn't seen like that on this level by that player. Usually we guard him by committee, or we force him in the trap, so we do things like that. But we saw Andrew Wiggins kind of do the same thing to Luka Doncic the series before, where he has been the player to take on the biggest defensive assignments and kind of give other players, and he's been doing a great job of it. And not only is he taking on the biggest defensive assignments, he's going back at them at the other end, where their star players now, they have to play real deal defense, or Andrew Wiggins can light you up on both ends. And it's kind of been a joy to see, because he's been one of those players where he was kind of put in a position where he was kind of written off. People said he didn't live up to the number one player hype overall, and people kind of written him off. So it's always good to see that feel-good story of somebody finding their niche or finding their place in a winning environment. And I think for me, that's totally what's all he's been missing. Like, if you've ever played team sports and you've gone to a team where players are used to losing, or a losing environment where they've been consistently losing, it kind of takes a generational talent to come in and change that altogether. And maybe Andrew Wiggins wasn't a generational talent, and he kind of needed to be under the tutelage of some veterans to teach you how to win. And I think every star player kind of, especially as young as Andrew Wiggins was when he came into the league, every player needs to be able to learn how to win from the vets. And this is his first time being able to do that. And who knows, if he would have had this kind of tutelage or this kind of winning environment by some good veterans in the beginning, his career probably could have turned out differently than what it was, because we see it isn't the talent that's there. Because the talent is there for number one overall pick, because when you see somebody who can lock up on both ends and wants a willingly defender and can go and give you 25 on the other end, I mean, that's a unicorn in a sense.
Yeah, man, he's looking just like the player that we all expected him to be out of Kansas. I mean, he's got the skill set. Like, he didn't have the confidence to really actually try to take over games like that. But it kind of makes you wonder how many other players get drafted that high and go to bad teams and are expected to carry an entire NBA flame out because of how high the expectation was. They don't always get a chance to go play with a Curry and a Clay, where now you can go one-on-one and ain't nobody doubling. Nobody's even helping. They would rather Wiggins get a dunk than to let Curry and Clay get hot out there. Just let him go.
I mean, I hate to bring this comparison, but we can say a la LeBron James, who went to a notoriously bad team, and he couldn't really get them over the hump and just go into a winning. And the Heat weren't even winning like that by the time he got there. He just got around winners, like people like Pat Riley and Dwayne Wade, who veterans who kind of, when things got rough, could kind of help him and guide him into how it is to win the close games, or how it is, like, this is what we do. A consistent winning is something that goes from consistent from the beginning of training camp. And being in that environment, this is the first time in Wiggins' career, just like LeBron, where they get that and they're like, wow, this is what it takes. And now he has that going out. And you can see LeBron is taking that everywhere else he's been, that Heat culture mentality.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. So, man, we got this game coming in tomorrow night. Thursday night could be the end of the series. What kind of adjustments Celtics need to make in order to push a Game 7?
Man, in my opinion, the Celtics are the more talented team. They're bigger, they're stronger, they have players that can go one-on-one, and they're deeper. I think the Warriors have the best player on the court, which is Steph Curry. But after that, I'm going Boston, second best, third best, maybe even fourth best. Boston has that. And I think Boston just can't beat themselves. In the games that they've lost, they turned the ball over in crucial times. They've had a stat where once they turn the ball over 16 times, that's when they lose the game. That's kind of their threshold of what they want to stay in between. So really, all Boston has to do is not beat themselves. If they don't beat themselves, they win the game or put themselves in a much better position to win the game. Because if it comes down to it being a close game, I like Boston because their ability to go one-on-one. And they're also their ability to defend as well. So Boston just can't beat themselves. They can't turn the ball over. If they do that, it has a good chance of going 7.
Yeah, I mean, their turnovers are kind of a microcosm of what their team is. They got a point guard who's not guard. He ain't facilitating nothing. Tatum shouldn't really be running the point because he's not a passer like that. But you see, they started off the last game, first play of the game, he threw the ball off in the stands at nobody, and then was looking confused. Like, everybody looking at you like, who the hell are you throwing the ball to? They just turn the ball over entirely too much. I mean, Jaylen Brown act like I've never seen a player who can score that well that can't dribble. Like, even when he gets in there, it's like he stumbles in and then finds the handle on his way in. I mean, he's turning over a lot. Like, they really need to find some stability in just facilitating the offense. You know, they need to just rotate the lineup. Like, they need someone in there to actually control the ball on the offense. They can go one-on-one, but they're having a hard time because their best one-on-one player is getting stuffed. I mean, I say that Jason Tatum is getting shut down, but he's definitely being quieted. So he just can't get off against Andrew Wiggins like that. And if that's what you're relying on, now you're hoping that Robert Williams is just attacking the glass, putbacks, and that he's getting blocked shots. Like, Golden State has adjusted the lineup. He starts to rotate players. He's getting Robert Williams out of the paint. They're rotating the ball a lot better. You see they put Porter in the lineup last game. They don't even know what they're going to be looking at out there. I mean, Golden State was exactly what to expect out of the Celtics. I mean, he's really going to have to come with a brand new game plan in Game 6. If they come out and try the exact same thing they did, just trying to face guard Steph all the way around the court for the whole game, then you're going to get the same thing you got last game, where now you got Wiggins going off. And, I mean, it's Game 6. We might get Game 6 Clay show up again because overdue. I mean, they got completely, like, he needs to go see the Wizard and figure out, like, man, I got to change because it ain't working.
I don't know what Udoka was able to tell them coming out in the third quarter, but their defensive intensity ratcheted up 10 times, and Boston needs to come out with that from the get-go. They were known as a defensive team all year, and that stretch of the game when they needed it most to get back into the game, something clicked and they realized they could lock up whenever they wanted to or when they bought in. So that's going to have to be what they hone into. They're just going to have to play defense like that an entire game or more than a stretch of one quarter. Because if they can do that, coming out and probably finishing and some stretches in between, they put themselves in a great chance because the reason Jaylen Brown and all those guys, they were able to get easy baskets. In the second half of last game, you didn't see them get any of those easy breakaway dunks, those easy 2-on-1 fast breaks where Jaylen Brown can go in and get the and one, where he doesn't have to rely on going into traffic and losing the ball. You can get those guys in the open break and use their athleticism to actually take advantage of the smaller Warriors team. And if they can do that on the defensive end, that you played ball before, that those easy baskets make life a lot easier on the other end. Once you see a couple of small bunnies go in, that jump shot starts flowing, the ball seems to zip a little bit more, and people find themselves open. So if Boston doesn't get back to what got them there, they're in trouble.
I feel you on that. I mean, I think they're going to stay us. Y'all heard the alarm go off. 8:24 has already come in. Got to hit the Kobe break right quick. After Mike Beasley gives us a little word from the sponsors, we're going to come back. We'll make some picks for Game 6, and we'll let you know who's going to get Finals MVP. So without further ado, let's count this thing down. 3, 2, 1. Kobe.
All day.
Rest in peace to the Black Mamba. Y'all know every week at 8:24, we the late, great Kobe Bean. That'll never stop. Every Wednesday, any day that I'm live is at 8:24. It's got to happen. So, man, y'all keep this thing locked. My man Mike Beasley going to let you know who pays the bills around here. Then we're going to tell you what's going to happen tomorrow.
Got it. Locked in.
Yes, sir. Appreciate that. Famous Facts Feeds, ladies and gentlemen. You tuned in like every week, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time to Petty Sports, brought to you by Pulse 880 Radio. Pulse 880 Radio is a 24/7 internet radio station with all different type genres of music. Go check them out. You know what I'm saying? Help support black business. You know what I mean? Yep. Go to Pulse 880 and vibe out with us. You know what I'm saying? So thank you for tuning in. Like always, everybody in the chat room chopping it up. We see you out there. You know, feel free to call in at 678-871-9602. 678-871-9602. That's how you can be a part of the show tonight. We love to hear from you guys. So you can chop it up with fees and some of the topics that's been discussed tonight and something that may not have been discussed. And you can get in where you fit in. Thank you for tuning in. Like always, you could have been anywhere in the world, but you're right here with the crew at the table making it do what it do. You know, we got NBA Reg in the building, special guest tonight, you know what I'm saying, blessing the studio with his presence. We greatly appreciate him on deck. He's not a stranger, you know, he's been here before, so we greatly appreciate him stopping by again, you know, spreading his wisdom. Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen. Get at us. ATL, back to the regular scheduled program.
Yes, sir. As promised, I told you we jumping right back into this thing. So, man, check this. We got Game 6 tomorrow night. We jumping right into it. Who's winning? Are the Warriors going to go ahead and end it, or you got Boston pushing 7?
Hey, man, I'm going to keep it real. This thing ends tomorrow. I think Golden State comes in there with the veteran mentality, and they close it out. This is a team who's been there before. Their championship DNA is shown all throughout the playoffs, and I just think just by Boston being in this position, it kind of shows that this stage, I don't know if they're really ready for this stage, because they had a chance to really take control of the series, and they really had a chance to kind of really put the Warriors in a position that it kind of had them shook. I don't think the Warriors were really ever shook when they were down 2-1. Even Draymond said he looked up the stacks of one game. He was just like, they can't do X, Y, and Z consistently. And I was always the person that thought that which team, whatever wins the first 2 games, that can put 2 games in a row back to back, was definitely gonna win the series. So Golden State was able to do that. I think 6 of the last 8 quarters, Golden State has outplayed Boston, and it hasn't even been close. 6 of the last 8 quarters. And unless Boston comes up and does something completely different, we said what they need to do, I don't think that they're going to be able to do it, even with the home crowd, even with everything that's going on. I just think you can't give a bunch of veterans this kind of opportunity that have that championship DNA. I think they sealed the deal.
Oh, yeah, man. Y'all already know I call Golden State in 6. I think that's the blood in the water. It's Game 6. We getting Game 6 Clay. You will see Clay go for 35-plus points tomorrow night. I think he's going to start fast. Steph clearly ain't going to go 0 for 9 again. When you get the two of them coming out and raining threes in your building, it's going to take the crowd out of the game. It's going to get Boston out of their game, because they try to match Golden State with threes. They only are able to match Golden State with 3. Golden State is not shooting well. When they come out and start hitting, you can't keep up with them that way, and they get away from going to the basket. You get Tatum with too many one-on-ones. You get Jaylen Brown turning the ball over. I think this game is actually going to be ugly. Golden State is going to get up very early. Boston will make some type of a push to get back into the game, but just like what you saw in Game 5, it took so much energy to get back in that game in the third quarter. They have no gas left in the tank in the fourth. It looked like the gas pipe all over the city right now. They're like, man, they couldn't even afford no more. They out. I got Golden State winning this game, but I won't go as far as to say 20. That just might be disrespectful. I'm saying Golden State team series over in Boston. The blue and gold confetti is going to fall, and that's a wrap.
Yeah, I can't disagree. If it's a close game, that's the only thing. I definitely think Golden State wins between 10 to 15. But the only thing that worries me, if it is a close game, if Boston can find a way to muddy it up, and I don't see Golden State beating them in a close game at home in a game 6. But I don't think it's going to be close. But if they can find a way to make it close, I think it goes to Boston. Either it's a blowout or a very, very close win by Boston. I don't think Golden State beats them in a close game in a game 6.
I can see that. I just don't think the game's going to be close.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is we've all lost. I have lost any hope that Jason Tatum is gonna walk into that game and be the best player on the court. I think Jaylen Brown has shown that he's gonna show up and do what he does. But they're gonna need both of them to have those games and the others to show up for them to win. And that's a lot to ask of everybody as a collective unit, where everybody has to be on their apex. And we see last game where Golden State doesn't have those same problems. Stephen Curry can play his worst shooting performance from 3 in a playoff game ever and not make one, and the other people will find a way to win. I don't know if Boston's others can step up the way Golden State others have to be able to bail them out if Jason Tatum continues to play the way he's playing.
No, they definitely can't. I mean, it's like Draymond game 1. He's like, man, Al Horford will never shoot like that. He wasn't having a great game that game. Everybody's like, ooh, Horford killed him in game 1. Horford had 4 points going into the fourth quarter. He just, I don't know what happened. Like the spirit of Ray Allen in the fourth quarter. 22 points on a quarter from Al Horford. He's never had a quarter like that in his life. And it definitely was. But that's how much it actually took for them to get a W. It is not happening.
Not happening. Not happening at all.
If he hadn't done that, the series would be over now.
Yeah. It would definitely be over. I think what Boston did was they kind of made it interesting. And a lot of people, because I expected to be Golden State in 6, but I didn't expect Boston to be as competitive in the games they did win and kind of handle Golden State. I didn't expect Golden State to come out and play as bad as they did once they got to this level. So I think Boston kind of gave us a little false hope, but the last couple losses for them, I would feel totally different if they had been close losses. But they haven't been close losses. Like Golden State has kind of put them away by the middle of the fourth quarter in the last 2 losses, where we know this thing is over. And usually taking losses like that in the playoffs, it feels like 2. You can lose 1 game and it feels like 2 because they kind of take your heart out of it. Instead of like, they beat us on some lucky shot, we won them the next game. Like Boston is just like, yo, we're ready to get out of here and hopefully we can start a clean slate in the next game and it happened again. So
it's demoralizing the team beats you that way, especially when you get Steph to shoot like that, you're supposed to win that game.
Yes.
But that's one of the things I've been talking about all the way through the playoffs when we compared all the teams is the fact that Golden State is able to win when they don't play their best. When you can still win games and everyone doesn't have to be playing their best game, you're more dangerous than anybody because everybody ain't going to show up every game, but they don't have to because they got enough. And now they got Wiggins out there playing he's playing like he feels like he's better than Tatum. He's out there doing.
I mean, in all honesty, there's no reason why Andrew Wiggins shouldn't show up to every game and not feel like he's the best player on the court. When we think about it, coming out of high school, he was always the top player. In Kansas, he could have been the top player in the nation. So when you grow up with that pedigree of, all my life I've been the best player. And going to the Timberwolves, he still, some seasons, was a 25-point-a-game scorer.
Yeah.
So he actually really sacrificed a lot of his game to be in a team environment to win because anybody can have those numbers on a bad team. And so him doing this, it shouldn't really surprise anybody when you look at a player like him and how they grow up and because he's a little bit older than Tatum, but they kind of have had the same trajectory to get to the NBA. So Tatum has always been that guy, always been a number one player, top player in his class, top player here, top player here. So Andrew Wiggins is looking at Tatum as just like, I've done everything you've done. So why can't I go out and lock you up? Or why can't I guard you one-on-one? Because the way I'm seeing it is everything you've accomplished, I've done myself. So, and he's an all-star this year. That's also definitely helped his confidence. And I don't think it's gonna be his last one. He's gonna be fighting for all-star positions for years to come. So.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, depending on what happens in this game tomorrow night, assuming that that's the last game of the series, who's getting MVP?
We can mark it down. The same guy who got the Magic Johnson Award for the Western Conference Finals. You know, it's got to be Steph Curry. And Andrew Wiggins has been great. But last game was the only game that you can say Andrew Wiggins was in my eyes, where he was clearly the best player on the court. He's had one game like that. Even in their losses, Steph Curry has been the best player on the court in the other wins. Best player on the court, hands down. So I don't think one game kind of puts Andrew Wiggins ahead of Steph Curry. And even though that was a great game that he had, last game where he got it in on both ends and he kind of took over the game, it still doesn't eclipse that 43-point barrage that we saw Steph had, where he was clearly outclassing everyone and it was nothing that they could do about it. So even in the games where we know Steph Curry was getting the ball, we know he's going to get the ball. We know he's going to shoot it. It's sort of like those players where you know it's going to happen and there's nothing you can do about it. We know that comes from Steph Curry. And Andrew Wiggins kind of, when he plays well, it's all great. When he plays well, we're like, oh my God, we didn't expect to see this level of dominance. But when Steph does it, it to me, it weighs a little bit more because you know it's coming and there's nothing you can do about it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this should be Steph's second MVP award. I mean, there's the whole notion that Wiggins is doing more, like, they don't credit his defense to be like that's impactful than Steph. I mean, in the 2015 finals, Steph Curry should have won the MVP. I mean, he averaged 26, he's having 26 points a game, like 26.5. And Andre Iguodala wins the MVP, averaging 8 points a game.
And if you want to be honest, he didn't really stop LeBron. He didn't stop him. They played
36 and 13. Like that's stopping him? I mean, that's historically great. They were talking about LeBron getting the MVP and they lost. So, you know, it was kind of how they say the prisoner of the moment. How you look back and you see, man, you're in the moment, you're like, oh my God, you expect all this. And I just think they played great team defense on a hurt Cavaliers team that they kind of exposed, where they're just like, yo, we're just gonna work him to death and we're gonna make him earn everything. And we don't have to worry about any of the others from that Cavs team beating. And that's exactly what happened. So here's a curveball of a question I'm going to throw at you. You wasn't prepared for this one. Do you think that the way Wiggins and Poole are playing, rotating into that third scorer role out there with Steph and Clay, are lessening the legacy of Kevin Durant?
You want to know what? I'm definitely in one of those positions where the Warriors never needed Kevin Durant to beat anybody else. They needed Kevin Durant to beat LeBron James. If we're being honest, the Warriors, the Rockets were hot. The Blazers with Dame. Everybody in the West were always good. They just lost to an all-time great player in LeBron James. They didn't need Kevin Durant for anybody else but him. So I don't think it lessens the legacy of Kevin Durant, because if Kevin Durant is in this Warriors roster, it's a sweep. It's not even close. So them getting back, they went 72-9 without Kevin Durant. So them being able to win a championship without him, it just goes to show that they do have a complete team. They got there with him before. They just aren't blowing everybody out. When they had Kevin Durant, games were 4-1 at most. And that's just because of human nature. They tend to lapse up, but it doesn't lessen anything that I think Kevin Durant brings to the table, because if we're being honest, I think Kevin Durant is at any basketball table with any player, definitely in his era, and we're talking about all time. And I love what Andrew Wiggins is doing. I love what Jordan Poole is doing, but it's not even close to Kevin. Both of them put together doesn't equate to what they had with Kevin Durant, and it's not even close.
Well, I mean, I don't think they equate to Kevin Durant, but they show that any good wing player is enough for them to win a championship with.
What it showed was they didn't need the best wing player in the NBA. I mean, they won with Harrison Barnes, for God's sake, and was pretty good with them until he just couldn't buy a bucket against the Cavaliers. And it took a all-time Herculean effort by Kyrie and LeBron to even beat them in 7 games. And most say if Draymond plays all the games, they don't even get to the point because they win it in 6. So
exactly. I mean, I think it's definitely something to be looked at. It doesn't lessen the player that Kevin Durant is, but it lessens the importance of his legacy as it pertains to Golden State. Because as they've showed now, after they win this series, just give me somebody decent that can go one-on-one, because he's not going to get any help. Just go out, do your thing. No one is coming off Steph or Clay to help you.
But if we go back in time, at that time, they were meeting up with Kyrie and LeBron. So I do think if Golden State runs it back without Kevin Durant, I think Kyrie and LeBron definitely feel like they have the antidote to beat that Warriors team that was constructed at that time if we go back in time. So I think LeBron James, that kind of took his stranglehold off the league once they was able to get Kevin Durant. And it kind of didn't become his league anymore, which essentially is why he's in LA right now, because he had to revamp his whole routine, and he realized I can't beat this team with where I'm at. So I got to do something, because he's chasing a ghost. So that's the only thing left on his resume. So, I mean, they shook it up. It's just hard because I feel like they only made that trade for one person. They didn't get Kevin Durant to beat the Celtics or to beat anybody coming out of the East except for LeBron, because they pretty much had a stranglehold on the West since they got on their run.
Yeah, I mean, if they hadn't gotten hurt, they'd have been in the finals probably after that. They gave the rest of the 2 year jump start, but they also retooled their roster with players that they ain't got no business having on the roster because they were everybody hurt.
Yes. I mean, it kind of, maybe we're not looking at Chris Paul the same, because Chris Paul doesn't have those 2 years where he kind of brings the Suns out of nowhere, and we start thinking, hey, the point guard here, he's back, he's getting this team, and in the biggest moments, the Suns just haven't been able to get it done. And it's sort of like I lost Steph. Every time Chris Paul is on the top of the mountain, here comes Steph coming to knock him right off. I mean, the Clippers were planning to essentially become the next people in line after OKC. Lob City, everybody was going crazy, and kind of Golden State comes out of nowhere and kind of takes them out. Same way, the Suns were like, hey, Chris Paul, hey, they got 1 year under their belt. They went to the finals. Now they're the number 1 team in the West back again. They got the best point guard in the game, and here come the Warriors right again, kind of doing the same thing. So, yeah, man, who knows?
Hey, that doesn't include me. I've never been out.
Hey, you want to know what I'm not finna be Patrick Beverly and go all in that, but I will say he's always had talent around him ever since he left the since he left his OKC days and the Hornets days, when he first got to the league, he's always had the talent around him. And it's always somebody else's fault of why his teams don't get where they need to be. So
he's the only player of that stature that doesn't have to carry around the stigma if he can't do it. He's got all the excuses. Like, they destroy Westbrook, destroy Harden. Chris Paul is in the same boat, and he needs to take the same amount of criticism.
They destroyed Melo for years. And they destroyed Melo so much, he actually got blackballed from the league because his talent hadn't decreased at that point to not be in the league. He was still talented enough to be there, but the reputation that preceded him, and of course, along with, a couple of things that he did to himself, but I mean, other players of that level, like you said, get crucified. But for some reason, everybody likes it. Like even the last episode on First Take where Patrick Beverley just rips into him, where he doesn't really tell anything that's kind of a lie. He's just saying it from a competitor's point of view. And maybe he went overboard in a couple of instances, but I didn't hear anything that he wouldn't have said on the court. And maybe players, it's almost like a fraternity where it's all right if we say stuff amongst each other, but we can't let them hear us argue like that. And I think that's kind of the way they want to keep things. And Patrick Beverley's one of those players where just like he doesn't go by any of those rules. Like he's like, what I say in front of anybody. I don't care about none of that. Y'all ain't my friends like that anyway. So this fake friendship, y'all can keep it.
Only thing he's disrespectful is when he called that man a cone. I'm like, damn, he cone. He's like, what do they do when you run the drill? Nothing.
Hey, I will say, man, the First Take, they've been up and down, but once ESPN has brought him on, that's definitely added a flavor that is that's much needed in that telecast. It's almost sort of like what TNT did the first time they brought Charles Barkley, or the first time we heard this unfiltered version of what a player says and doesn't care, right or wrong, what anybody thinks about it. And people love to hear that. People love to hear that honest critique instead of always being this person who's always saying the right thing or phrasing it right. We want to hear, pretty much everybody wants to hear what the players are saying on the court. We want to be as close to the action as possible. So we love to get those pieces where players are mic'd up and they're going at it. Or you hear a coach say, you guard him one-on-one. He's been killing you. What you're going to do about it? We love to hear that because that's what we want to be as close to the game as possible. So whenever a player puts down that guard and gets us to that type of environment, I mean, we eat it up.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've been saying for years, people pay extra for the NBA and the NFL package if they'd actually let us hear the on the court and on the field mics and we could hear them talking during.
Yes.
See, that'd be worth its money in gold. Like, I mean, I watch every game.
Definitely. Like I can't imagine because what Patrick Beverley just exposed is that happens. Like because everybody always tries to paint this picture that players today, they play AAU ball together. They don't have any real rivalries. They're too buddy because they go play with each other. But what that exposes there still are some dogs out there who made it to the league the untraditional way, and they ain't coming out there to be nobody's friend. And they're coming out there to take you out if at all means possible. So, I mean, it kind of gives you that old school theme of like what we thought players had back in the day when we see somebody with that mentality has some success in today's game.
Oh, absolutely. Yo, man, weigh in. We'd have just killed y'all on the NBA segment. We told y'all who's in. We told y'all who's going to get MVP. We told y'all why. I see y'all chiming in the comments. There's some Celtics fans in there. Share.
Okay.
Like that. But, I mean, you're going to have to sit here and watch the game with me tomorrow night. I'm going to give you a hug when they lose. It's all good, man. We got one more segment for you. You going to stay on for the NFL segment?
Oh, yeah, man, definitely.
All right, yeah, man. We got one more segment for y'all before we get up out of here. It's going to be a little bit shorter show tonight. We on for an hour because we in here on a Zoom thing. But, man, every single year in the NFL, we get a team to go from worst to first. 2002, every year, but except for two of them, we've had a team go from the bottom of their division to the top of their division. Last year was the Cincinnati Bengals. We know their story. Joe Burrow took them boys to the Super Bowl. So we're looking at the 2022 season. Who is the next team that's going to go from the bottom of the division to the top? And I'll let you know who those teams are. We're looking at Denver, Jacksonville, Baltimore, the New York Jets, the Detroit Lions, the New York Giants. You see all the New York teams are in there. The Carolina Panthers, and the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, of those 8 teams that finished at the bottom of their divisions last year, who's got a shot to go from worst to first?
Man, this is definitely a tough one. But I'm going with Baltimore, man. I'm definitely going with Baltimore. I think quarterback, they're locked in. I think they're going to be healthier this year. And I just like it that they already have the players there with the quarterback situation that they've always been on the cusp, where they've always been they've always been pretty good in the regular season, the playoffs, not been able to get over that hump. So, man, maybe I'm going with my heart with Baltimore in this pick, but that's what I'm going with.
I mean, Baltimore's a good pick. I mean, more so probably out of the 8 teams, I would say they're the second most likely to do it, but that would mean they'd have to take out Cincinnati Bengals. So I'm like, they have a shot. I just don't think they're better than Cincinnati right now. The amount of confidence the Bengals had coming off a Super Bowl season, and they won the division last year, they're really not worried about anybody. Like, they just play their game. I mean, they already an offensive line, and now they're talking about Odell Beckham possibly going there. Like, it could get kind of ugly in Cincinnati.
I mean, if Beckham goes there, that definitely changes the game completely. But with them being a young team, I feel like when young teams kind of get there that quickly, I don't know. The next year, it's always usually happens to the Super Bowl winner. It's always the year of where things just don't come together like they should. And I think probably like with those young players, like, you know, it's gonna be some tough times. Like, can everybody stay healthy? Can everybody, especially after a long season, did players take care of their bodies right and come back to the next season just ready to go? And I feel like with young teams, that's always the kind of way to get back, like to do it back-to-back years like that. Now, when vets do it, I don't feel as lenient, or I don't feel as kind of scared that they can do it again. But when young players do it that early, that next year is always that much harder for them the next year, because they do everything in the offseason to keep it consistent. So
it is, but I think the team with the best chance to actually go from worst to first next season has got to be the Denver Broncos. I mean, they were in last year. That's by most wins by a team. Well, them and Baltimore, they were both still in position, even though they had a bad year. They were 5 games out of first with Drew Lock starting at quarterback, which just lets you know how good their defense and the rest of that team was. I mean, that dude is terrible. But now they made this upgrade. Wilson coming in. He's got his host of wide receivers. We see now Jerry Jeudy has got down his charges, and he's back and ready to go. There's not going to be any suspensions or anything around him. And they've got Hackett out there. There's Nathaniel Hackett. He's an offensive guy. I mean, for folks who don't know who Nathaniel Hackett is, he's been the offensive coordinator for the past 3 years for the Green Bay Packers, and he's been out there pulling the strings for Aaron Rodgers, who won back-to-back MVP awards, and his team won 13 games, 3 straight seasons. Now he is in Denver as the head coach. He's going to let Russ cook. He's got a host of wide receivers with Jeudy and Sutton. He's got a running back out there. They already have a good defense. Not only could they go from worst to first, they could be a Super Bowl contender on top of it. So I think Denver is the far and away best choice for a team to go from the bottom to the top of their division coming in the next season.
I mean, it's kind of hard to argue with it. Like they're getting almost a once in a generation quarterback with a lot of pieces coming in all around to complement him. Somebody that you know is a proven winner, and he's going to say and do all the right things to galvanize the troops. And one thing you know about Russ is he's going to come and do his job. He's going to do it efficiently. He's going to come in with the right attitude and come in to work. And I feel like in a situation like that, when you have a leader that does that, when the quarterback, you know, is going to do all the right things, it kind of holds everybody else to a certain standard. And you need that standard when there are a lot of new pieces coming around, when you're trying to come build something new with the new attitude and a new, pretty much a whole new what's the word? A whole new culture that they're saying, a whole new culture. And I feel like when you have a player like that to bring a whole new culture that's going to do everything right, it's kind of hard to go against it. So I definitely see it.
It might not be a better choice in the NFL to add a quarterback, to have him bring in the culture and just to make everybody buy into a brand new regime with a new coach than Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
He's going to do everything the right way. He's going to put in the extra hours, encourage everybody else to do it. Like, players that weren't out there with that kind of ethic are all of a sudden going to come out there and work harder than what you've ever seen them work. And all of a sudden, the team that was already good with a bad quarterback can be even better than just subbing out the quarterback.
Yeah.
Like, the Broncos are going to be a problem next year. Like, I got a sleeper team from worst to first. So I know folks are probably about to jump in the comments and be like, what's in your glass or what is that you smoking? But just hear me out. The Detroit Lions.
Oh.
We know Jared Goff was just abruptly displaced from the Super Bowl champion LA Rams.
Okay.
The dude had an MVP candidacy season in 2018. I mean, they act like Jared Goff is trash. They're like, oh, they couldn't win with him. They did go all the way to the Super Bowl with Jared Goff. He did throw for 4,600 yards that season. It wasn't like he didn't just hand the ball off and get carried by the defense. They had a top 4 offense in the NFL that season. Y'all remember that Monday Night Football game with the Rams and the Chiefs where they scored 105 points and the Rams won it? Guess who the quarterback was? It was Jared Goff. When you get him weapons, he can sling it. He's not a guy who just carries the team, but he definitely ain't holding you back. And he's not exactly a game manager. He's not like a Kirk Cousins. But speaking of, that's who is possibly one of the front runners in the division. If he can get past Kirk Cousins and this Green Bay team that now has 0 weapons, like it's all Aaron Rodgers. You know what Aaron Rodgers does when he doesn't have anyone to throw the ball to? He just gets safe. He's not going to force anything. He's going to go out there to protect his QB rating. And it is possible that if Jared Goff would now having a few weapons, you pulled in Jameson Williams, we know he is a game-changing wide receiver. If he's ready to go at the beginning, DeAndre Swift is healthy. They brought in DJ Sharp and TJ Hawkinson. He has a very decent host of weapons around him. And the Detroit Lions offense might actually be formidable next season, enough to win a very weak NFC South. We know we're not worried about the Bears. They're doing nothing. Like the Minnesota Vikings, they're okay. They're a middle-of-the-road team. They could take them out. Really, it's a matter of, like, do you think they can beat Green Bay with no weapons?
I don't know. It's something about, I can't go against Aaron Rodgers completely. Like, he has been, I mean, we're talking about coming off MVP season. Like, I don't know. With no weapons, yeah, they kind of traded everybody away from Aaron, but I don't know if I'm ready. And you made an amazing case for Detroit Lions, for a notoriously terrible franchise. You kind of almost sold me on what I have been watching for the past 10 years. Like, I'm like, when you kept talking, I'm like, you know what, that actually makes sense. But from the body of work that I've seen, from how Stephen A. always says, what can go wrong will go wrong. That has always been the case from the Detroit Lions since I've been alive. So I don't know. It's sort of like how people always kind of doubt the Falcons, even like when it's supposed to be great or we're supposed to have something. I don't know. I feel like Detroit kind of has that whole stigma that that my team has had on them. So I don't know if I'm really quite just being able to put them over Green Bay with the culture of a winning culture like Green Bay. Like they consistently year in, year out, they're a team that you're always gonna have to deal with. And they may have the best quarterback in the league at that. So
outside of Tampa and the Rams, the NFC is very weak this year. It's open for a lot of teams to make noise that you really wouldn't expect to until you start to look at who they all have to play. Like the conference isn't that good. I mean, I'm not saying Detroit's going to make a run for those. I see Dominique like he's mind blown that I said the Detroit Lions. I said they could possibly win the NFC North. I did not say anything making a deep playoff run. If they win the NFC North, they will lose a home playoff game. That's what they'll do. But they can win the North, though.
Okay. All right. You want to know what? Maybe I was a prisoner of the moment in the whole spiel. I'm like, dang, like they could make a run, but like you kind of you put those parameters in there. So I see it.
They'll get somebody like either a Dallas or a Philly to end up coming in there on the road and taking them out. Because I mean, they're not that good, but they can win that division. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of weak divisions in the NFC right now. Like a lot of them just have one. Like, okay, past them, what we got? Nothing. Even the AFC West, which has been probably the best division in football over the past few years, they've gotten a lot weaker. I mean, Seattle disappeared. Arizona Cardinals, they had a great start, but they do this every year. Like, who really is actually believing in anything that Arizona's selling?
Nobody.
And San Francisco still talking about dealing away Jimmy. So if Jimmy's not the starter and Trey Lance is out there, I can't actually give credit. San Francisco ain't going nowhere either.
And it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough season.
Absolutely, man. See, man, you see, we ran a quick hour on y'all tonight. Y'all got to make sure y'all stay tuned in every single Wednesday night on Petty Sports. I told you we having a quick one on y'all tonight. No, we have more juicy stuff for you. I'll throw some stuff over in the next week. We're going to talk about how Golden State ended the finals on Thursday night.
Ooh.
I got much more for you. Y'all make sure y'all always keep it in for Petty Sports Black because you know we rocking for all things HBCU. I'm going to have a very, very special guest interview coming soon. Y'all stay tuned for the details on that. It's about crazy. Spanish, anything you want to lead the people with, Reg?
Hey, man, definitely. Just mark it down. You heard what we said. It ends tomorrow. So if it doesn't happen, I'm ready for all the smoke of where I was wrong and where I was right. You know what I'm saying? You can always get at me if Famous Feeds wants to have me back and kind of atone for what was wrong and what we said, man. I'm always willing to come back. I'm always willing to chat it up, good basketball talk with you guys, good fellas, man. It's always a good time. So I'm here. It's all love.
Absolutely. So we're going to have Reg back on so we can gloat with me, with the rest of you. We can tell Adam how wrong he was about picking the Celtics.
All right.
Yeah, man. So, I appreciate y'all as always. Every single Wednesday, tune into Petty Sports. Y'all support black businesses because you know we do. And every single night, y'all remember, always keep it petty. We out.
We out.
Yes, sir.